Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for inviting me, Techweek. I'm Marc, CEO of Fuel Intelligence. Just give a bit of context as to what we are. So we're a marketing platform that tracks in real time movie marketing campaigns across paid, owned and earned metrics. And obviously there are certain key components of campaigns that you can be acted on better in real time, social being one of those key elements, and how is that evolving. So we're going to be talking today about the future of social optimization. We're going to show some particular actual data from some campaigns that have actually been running recently, and I'm really excited to show you some of this data. And it's so social optimization. What actually does this mean? It's actually quite simple. In essence, how are we learning more about people online, particularly in their social environments? How are we understanding, engaging what's actually with people in different demographics so that ultimately we get them here? That's all that we're actually trying to do. I love this guy, by the way. It's a great photo. So what is actually changing? What is enabling us to do it? So Facebook and Twitter in particular, there are some amazing new functionality and tools to be able to optimize social. We're going to concentrate on Facebook first. I am exclusively allowed to say that Facebook have actually approved this presentation, which is not always that easy, to actually talk about one of their new products and later on actually show data around Spectre as an opening release in the UK and the Star Wars recent trailer in the UK of new data that's never been seen before and is now accessible. So thank you to them. We're also going to talk about demographics that's possible within Twitter. So rather just talking about data, we'll actually show and talk through some, which is, I think, a bit more interesting. So the Facebook component is called Facebook Topic Data. It's called Pylon. It is now, we have access to this, fortunately, and what it does, it enables all conversations that you have between yourselves, not on fan pages, but your own status updates that can actually be brought in and apply demographics around subjects that you talk about. It's totally anonymized. Facebook is very privacy first, so I'll show you the type of things that actually you can extract out of this, but this is a brand new product which is very exciting. So what does it mean? A lot of the chatter that actually happens on fan pages, if we talk about movies specifically, is very limited compared to what everyone else is talking about. If you own a fan page as a movie studio, you're going to know, okay, this person likes my page, I've got this amount of millions, and here's their demographic, but you have no idea who likes or shares or who those engagements are. And more to the point is you have no idea about what people are saying to each other on Facebook about movies, for example. And it's basically 99% more data is now available about campaigns that you run. So can studios or businesses afford not to even know that information about how successful their campaigns are? And this is rolled out across 55 countries currently. So what does that actually mean? So anytime you do a status update, or you do a page post, or react to a page post, or like or share, we can anonymize all of that data in real time across gender, age range, and location. So what does it actually look like when someone's talking about something? Here's an example of someone saying, can't wait to take the kids to watch Star Wars 7. Clearly they should have said Force Awakens as well, but we'll let that slide. But out of that, we can understand the text. We can understand any links they've shared, what's publicity links around it that's been placed. We can understand the topics that they're talking about, the engagement levels, and clearly sentiment. Sentiment's a massive part of what's the positive, negative, particularly in movies. I always remember working on The Dark Knight, and is it good, is it bad? The name is dark, so how do you understand this? So now you have about 500 Facebook engineers working on this all day long. So pretty good barometer now of how sentiment's evolving. And clearly the demographics are key. Whilst we're going to talk about UK data for today, it's global and it's state by state. So you can have a map in real time of who's engaging with your content and change and optimize your marketing and your spend around these things. Twitter. So most social listening, you're generally going to get some quite top level information if you're using social listening tools. You'll get mentions, you'll get gender, you'll get some sentiment, but we want to understand who the people are. So there's a lot of development in how we can understand demographics of a movie audience. We can start understanding a bit more about them, marital status, parent status, So with Facebook, it's state by state or town by town or country by country. In Twitter, it literally is geo-targeted to actual towns and locations. So we can start mapping how people are engaging at certain points across different countries. We can understand more about their likes or more about their hobbies, what accounts they follow, anyone engaging with a piece of content that we're tracking, and we'll show some Star Wars to be more relevant. We can unravel more about these people in real time and start affecting how they're being marketed to and planned. We can start getting commercial insight, brands that they're interested in, building Twitter profiles of people engaging in any type of content. So, how are these being applied? Facebook topic data is brand new, Twitter demographics is recent, but these are now going to be, this is about the future of social optimization, but the future is sort of now, but it requires a very different mindset. So in a planning stage, because you can be getting this information if you're a studio against a competing title that you want to see what that audience demographic was. It doesn't have to be your own projects that you're actually getting this data from. When you're launching, particularly for movies, teaser trailers, posters, trailers, all of this stuff, you can actually start understanding your audience when you actually have a time to then implement this knowledge for the benefit of the campaign. What you know at an opening weekend is is far harder to act on because you've done 90% of your marketing campaign. But if you know on opening weekend this audience is engaging with this demographic at this time in real time, you can programmatically change digital outdoor advertising, for example. So all this programmatic advertising that's happening, how can we optimize that with social? Then spend. So what does it require to do this? It's obviously just not someone sitting there typing in a few keywords. So what's the process that has to be done? It's all about innovation. So these are now available to us. So innovation about how we think and approach social listening. So because we can talk about, understand conversations, we have to track in conversation styles. So it's a very different mindset. But the richness of the data is clearly very, very pure. So, innovation in action. How are we actually changing the way we work in a marketing campaign? If to act in real time, we have to have all stakeholders, whether they're studios in this context, agencies, paid media agencies, all working together to be able to act on this type of intelligence in real time to positively affect a campaign. So we start thinking about what this approach is. So we start getting a bit more, maybe a bit conceptual on how we're thinking about talking and understanding audiences. So there's so much data, it's very impersonal. How do we start humanizing and moving out of this principle of just likes and numbers and start thinking about how people are talking? How can we inspire people to think about data differently? So humanization. I have attempted to put Z's, just to say, I hope I've got them all. So how are we humanizing what we're trying to do? We're not tracking them, we want to understand them, and it's a key difference. So they're sharing and expressing their opinions. What you would say to your friends, if we talked about Facebook particularly, Twitter, having different strategies for Facebook and Twitter are key, but on Facebook, within your own status updates, how you're talking to each other is very different. You're actually so much data to actually be tracking that you're talking about what you're going to do. You're talking about your out-of-home habits, where you're going to go, where you're going to go for dinner. That's very different to how people talk on Twitter when they're very much a snapshot and a soundbite. How are we looking at those platforms differently in the way we approach those conversations? You're making plans. You know, we can start looking at, okay, somebody's saying they're going to go to the cinema, do you want to come? We can start understanding this information to start untapping those demographics per title, per country. It's a very global view of how this can work. We're invested in sharing their humanity. We're trying to go for a different approach. So, actual data. So this is going to be a mixture of Facebook topic data, which ran on the 19th of October. It actually opened early in the morning in the UK, the Star Wars trailer. This is just a snapshot of Facebook topic and Twitter, just to give some examples on real data, but how we can start slicing and dicing and acting on data in real time. So, we ran this in the UK only for 4 days, and there was 624,000 interactions that we could understand demographics, understand who that audience was, that was previously unavailable. It's a huge number. If we think about sampling and what people make decisions on, this starts to be very interesting about this huge amount of honest data. We can clearly start showing how males and females are interacting and split them. That's very top level. Then we can start actually uncovering what people are talking about and how you can create assets as a studio, as an agency working on studios, to in real time to actually start creating conversations. There's 39% of people said the trailer said too much. There's actually a very high number on Twitter as well. It was the highest number. Spoilers was the biggest thing. But, okay, well, do they really know what that is? How can a page start creating a conversation about what do they think is going to happen? How do you use this information to start from your content plan rolling out? And then you can start spotting some higher levels of demographics that you might have known, females over 55. You can start shifting spend into those areas immediately as well. We can start seeing how conversations are spiked by trailers. So clearly there's lots of elements that go into a trailer revealed. Facebook is so much with the native video player taking over YouTube in a way with trailers, but we can start mapping and benchmarking how a trailer growth affects engagement. High level view, total splits, demographic by demographic. We can then do that state by state in the US, and then within these demographics, we can actually start looking at, okay, am I over or under indexing? Is it reaffirming what I believed should be happening? Because optimization is not always about finding something you didn't know. It's about leveraging what you do know. But within these brackets of females 18 to 24, we can then unravel what they are interested down to the levels of the cast members or whatever it may be to start creating content. If you're doing an image for a Facebook ad, you can now have the most optimized ad used in that area. We can start seeing each day what the general audience starts moving around. So the day before the release in the UK, or the morning of, females were talking 35 to 44, were talking more about Star Wars than any other gender age band. And then it starts moving, shifting to male, but then it starts going down in male. So you can be buying ads, optimizing content for these audiences. We can start seeing what they were doing when they were interacting. So were they just liking stuff? Was it comments? Was it stories? Was it reshares? How do we understand what is most effective to create more content around? With a trailer, as I said, you have a lot more time to then implement strategies around this versus when we get to something like Spectre in a minute, opening weekend, it's a bit more limiting. What were they doing? So were they posting? Were they linking? Were they doing photos? Were they doing videos? How do we start optimizing content around data? We then break down the trailers. What resonated most within each trailer? This starts getting very interesting when you can start thinking about, I've got a 5-second ad that I can use as a video ad on Facebook for my trailer. What 5 seconds do I use? You can start seeing scene by scene what resonates most to optimize that as well as possible. And we can start understanding what resonates within different demographics to create content for those audiences specifically. And it's actually quite interesting with the spoiler, also on Twitter is number one, which we'll come to. Now we look at Twitter. So exactly the same period, UK again, far lower volumes. So clearly there are less people on Twitter than there are on Facebook. That's clearly a fact. However, we can unearth even more information on Twitter about certain activities. We can also start seeing what was the shift of actually male, female as well on these different channels and apply that too. We can start going into town by town. So over these periods, we can start understanding where certain people are and where they're reacting geo-targeted. We go back once again to the resonation of the audience. So is this mapping as well as it was mapping on Facebook, and how can we start changing? Music is far higher on this than it was on Facebook. The numbers of trailer spoilers and costumes, which is a big one, stay the same. So there is some parity. All actionable, all understandable. We can then start going into interesting elements of how we look at the conversations people are having. So we can start seeing out of those audiences who's talking about who they're going to go and see the movie with. So we start really thinking about intent. We start thinking about who they're going to go with and how we can use this data as effectively as possible. This is all possible today. So, Spectre. Same principle, but let's see how Spectre compares. Even more interactions, nearly 1 million in that period. I would have loved to have done this, by the way, for the US, but it came out on Friday and it was had to get this approved, so I didn't have enough time. But UK versus UK is probably a good comparison anyway. Shift, hugely female. Hugely female. These are big numbers. A few nuggets that we can start picking out. More people talking about M than Daniel Craig. And M, we have to go to the point of we can't just, they have to be talking about the character M. Positive sentiment versus negative. We show these high versions because they are, we don't show neutral, but very, very positive. Within the age bands of females, the top female age band, 35 to 44 onwards, we can start seeing how those male top threes are, how you can be, once again, applying this, how it shifts, particularly for Spectre versus Star Wars. We then can start analysing what tense people are talking in. Are they saying connected to Spectre that they're going to see the movie, and who said they've seen it? And then we can start unravelling those demographics of the people who've converted to actually go and see the movie, to then understand more about them and create more effective marketing to the people who are actually going, which is really where we try to get. Intent is the biggest driver that we're all looking at when it comes to this type of analytics. Over-index, as I said, female across the board. Huge spends can be shifted knowing this information on Facebook instantly. What resonated, again, very much about attire. When we actually started drilling down into the data, it was very much female audiences loving Daniel Craig, what he's wearing. I mean, it's no more complicated than that, if I'm being totally honest, in this instance, but that is something that we can leverage for content to those audiences instantly. Storyline is clearly a big lever that we can do. It's interesting that action is the last thing, or the least out of these, that's actually being talked about when they've actually seen the movie. So it does tell you something. This becomes very important for opening weekends of then how you drive, as I say, digital outdoor to demographics that you know have engaged, which you can affect, but also as you move into home entertainment, what this power of data can do to enforce how you're looking at character art, what characters are resonating more than others, how you look at posters. So it starts really, really moving through. Twitter audiences lower as to be expected again, however higher in comparison to Star Wars. But totally opposite. So males are driving that totally opposite to Facebook. Which then that strategy of what am I doing on Twitter ads, Twitter content versus Facebook can be implemented instantly. We can then start looking in more detail further. So out of everyone who talked about Spectre, we can outline their top 5, or well, we could do the top 100, but for this purposes, their favourite brands. We can start showing, okay, anyone who's actually saying, seen it, love it, quite a common statement that actually was in the data. Within that, we can track all of anyone who says that's influencer level. So how many followers, the cumulative amount of those people who said that one comment for an opportunity to see of 22.5 million people to see those tweets just on that band of people. So we start tracking people's influencer levels. Males most 17 to 19, very, very low compared to the other age bands of interaction. However, they are the ones with the recommendations. So very influential in how they're talking and how you can leverage that type of information to do that. Tracking conversations just generally around the movie. So once again, our friend Atara is there, but Krager's Bond, just lots of people, female again, more male in Twitter, talking about Krager's Bond, talking about they're liking him, carrying on. Then we start looking at a whole nother area when we start looking at brands. So Aston Martin, clearly an obvious principle of Bond, but this can be applied to understanding the brand audience of these people. This clearly are movie examples, but it works for any entertainment brand and or product. But clearly the focus is movies for today. Twitter works on machine learning with age bands, with demographics. You don't have to put your ages in. Some people do, but you don't have to, whereas Facebook is self-declared ages. Twitter is machine learning. So there's huge amounts that you can plug into the Twitter fire hose of data to enrich it and understand these age bands of who these people are. If I was to leave you with one soundbite, we can take things even further. How do you get information that can become actually consumable interest, but also actually inform a far bigger view of something? How can it be used for understanding in planning? We can categorically, statistically say that the UK Twitter audience would want Lady Gaga to do the next Bond theme tune. All from just understanding audiences, all from what people are actually doing, rather than assumptions. So we want her to be the next... I would pretty much believe the US audience would be quite similar, but I'll stand behind my fellow Brits on Lady Gaga. But how can we do this stuff differently? So, we know we can do this optimization. We know we can do this creative. We know we can start thinking about how is this done in real time. We can programmatically get this data and serve it to programmatically look at buying ads. So this is possible. But beyond that, I have a minute and 48, so I might slow it down for a second. But this could be a lot bigger. So we've applied this for social optimization. But a bigger question, particularly in movies, is this actually the future of movie tracking? If you think about sampling, you think about how audiences actually are. People are taking 10 people coming out of an audience or 1,000 people to get data of awareness at different times. We've just seen figures of nearly 1 million just in the UK of real people with their real views. My belief, or our belief, is this is the future of movie tracking. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.